she wants to be free. And she understands that there's opportunity in her in working with Donald Trump.
Though President Trump shrugged off a question about Maxwell yesterday,
I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt.
He and the White House have been well aware of the pressure from their base and trying to shift focus, including throwing out baseless accusations that former President Obama tried to influence the 2016 election. Yesterday, Obama's office issuing a rare rebuke, writing, "These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction." Overnight, President Trump coaching congressional Republicans on his strategy.
Every time they give you a question that's not appropriate, just say, oh, by the way, Obama cheated on the election.
For now, many seem happy to avoid the issue entirely. The House starting its summer recess early to avoid potentially embarrassing votes demanded by Democrats and some Republicans for Epstein information the Trump administration says it doesn't have.
This comes down to what are Republicans afraid of?
If Medi-Cal is cut, California will lose up to $37 billion in our economy. Businesses that service and support healthcare could face significant revenue and job loss. Cuts to Medi-Cal don't just affect me, they affect all of us.
This also comes as the DOJ now tries to talk to Jeffrey Epstein's longtime accomplice.
Amy Kawada is at the WJZ Alert Desk with the latest developments. Amy, good morning.
Good morning, Tim and Sina. The House Oversight Committee has voted to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell to testify at a deposition. Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year sentence in a Florida prison for conspiring to sexually abuse minors. This comes as Speaker Mike Johnson announced he is sending lawmakers home early for summer break rather than dealing with a bipartisan push to force a vote on releasing more files on Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, beautiful, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on me, and He crowned my good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, from sea to shining sea.
We're learning new information in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. The Justice Department says it wants to interview Ghislaine Maxwell regarding any information she may have about Epstein's crimes. Now, Maxwell was Epstein's former girlfriend. She was convicted in 2021 and given a long prison sentence for her role in conspiring with Epstein in the sexual abuse of underage girls. We're not entirely sure what information she may have, but Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said on social media that he wants to speak with her. It's part of what the Justice Department says is this effort to provide transparency to the American public, but it also comes amid a backlash that the department is facing after it refused earlier this month to disclose additional records that are in its possession. We're also hearing from Maxwell's lawyer that they're in talks with the Justice Department about trying to make this happen, so it's unclear whether and if that will. Meanwhile, the Justice Department has a pending request to unseal grand jury transcripts in that case.
No time will ever be the right time. You just have to do it. Once you get in there, you'll be happy that you did, especially when you finish and you're graduated and you have a diploma in your hand. You're like, oh my God, I didn't think I could do it. Like, no time was ever the perfect time. Now is the perfect time.
As we reported earlier, the Justice Department says it is now reaching out to Jeffrey Epstein's close associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell, as you probably know now, is serving a 20-year prison sentence for her role in helping Epstein recruit and traffic underage girls. During her trial, she denied any wrongdoing. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche wrote in part on X, quote, "Justice demands courage. For the first time, the Department of Justice is reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell to ask, what do you know? At the Attorney General's direction, I've contacted her counsel, and I intend to meet with her soon." Former federal prosecutor Mitchell Epner joins us now. I think some people have been asking this question, and I want to ask this to you. Why wait now to question her? We've been hearing about this for a couple of years now.
So she was on trial. She was convicted. I know that is what the Deputy Attorney General said, but I am confident that during the course of the run-up to her trial, she was asked through counsel whether she was interested in pleading guilty and cooperating. So there may be a technical sense in which what Deputy Attorney General Blanche said is true, but the idea that this is the first time that the DOJ said that they were interested in talking to her seems highly unlikely to me.
It seems like there's an effort to try and quell rumors or, make sure that those who supported Trump in this way feel vindicated in some way by, okay, the DOJ will question her. Maybe we'll learn more. But what do we expect to gain from an interview or a conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell at this point?
Well, Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking. She's serving 20 years in jail. And she did not testify at her trial, but she did testify in a deposition in a civil suit. And during that deposition, under oath, she denied everything, and she denied knowing that Jeffrey Epstein ever did anything wrong. So it's possible that she will change her story now and say something entirely different. But that seems like it would be difficult for the DOJ to rely upon, since she is already under oath absolutely positively denied everything.
And she's already serving time behind bars. The person at the center of this is dead. Is she to be trusted? Can she be trusted, I guess?
So in my training and experience as a criminal defense attorney for over 30 years and as a former federal prosecutor, we were trained to treat cooperating witnesses like nuclear waste. They need to be expected to poison everything, overflow their bounds, and not to be trusted at all. You only use their testimony to the extent that it can be corroborated by things that cannot be made up at this late date.
All right. Wow, I've never heard that before. Mitchell Epner, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
This summer, get ready for an all-new event. It's gonna be mega. Introducing Universal Mega Movie Summer. Make the most of your summer with this amazing offer.
We're learning new details about the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. The Justice Department says it wants to speak with Ghislaine Maxwell as part of its efforts to provide what it says is transparency to the American public about the materials that it has in the Epstein case. Maxwell was Epstein's girlfriend. She was convicted in 2021 in connection with Epstein's sexual abuse. And Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche posted on social media that he wants to speak with Ms. Maxwell for any additional information she may have about anybody else who may have participated in Epstein's crimes. We're also hearing from Maxwell's lawyer that they're in talks with the Justice Department about trying to make this happen, so it's unclear whether and if that will. Meanwhile, the Justice Department has a pending request to unseal grand jury transcripts in that case.
Welcome to Yahoo Finance's Opening Bid. I'm your host, Yahoo Finance Executive Editor Brian Sozzi. Join me every day at 9:30 a.m. live for sharp, actionable insight on the day's top headlines. We'll serve up the analysis you need to unleash your investing greatness.
Joining us now, NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin, and UK court reporter for Law 360 and the author of The Lasting Harm, Witnessing the Trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, Lucia Osborne Crowley. All right, so everybody, just for notes, we are watching the White House press conference right now where the White House team and the DNI are trying to, look, Tulsi Gabbard right here, are trying to claim that President Obama interfered in the 2016 election and tried to keep Donald Trump from winning in an illegal way. We have all of the context around that and the obvious fact check coming up a little bit later in the hour, so we're not going to get into it right now. We want to focus right now on Ghislaine Maxwell. So Todd Blanche is going to interview her in prison, Tom. What could he possibly be wondering that she has to tell him?
I'm going to answer that in a second. We do have some breaking news, Katie, in that a federal judge in Florida has just issued a ruling in regards to an effort by the Justice Department to transfer grand jury materials from that district. I know you're looking at your phone. We haven't even had a chance to post it internally. Our colleague Ryan Riley just zipped it to me, knowing that coming on set. Grateful for him. Basically, the judge is saying there that the court and the rules of grand jury proceedings prohibit the court from transferring grand jury material from the Southern District of Florida, which was the initial prosecutorial office that investigated this matter, and of course then got into the highly controversial non-prosecution agreement with Epstein. That court is prohibited from transferring that material to the Southern District of New York. Now, that doesn't mean that there wasn't a grand jury in New York. Of course there was. There was a significant amount of material that was presented, we believe, to a grand jury in New York. So it's not as if we won't see potentially grand jury transcripts if a judge allows it on the Jeffrey Epstein case in New York. But we also know that there was a significant amount of material that was uncovered in the course of that Florida investigation that then became part of the New York investigation. How much of that is an overlap? How much of the release in New York could be contingent upon the material in Miami? The judge has just denied the transfer. That's something, Katie, that we don't know because obviously that's secret material. So I mentioned this just as a procedural thing. You're going to hear about it later today, and I wanted to make sure we were briefed up on it. I know Lisa will go through the court document.
It does allow the Trump administration to say, we tried, but we're not being allowed to do this by a court.
And this was entirely predictable because, Katie, you and I have discussed the Second Circuit, where the Southern District of New York has a different rule than other courts in the country. The Southern District and the Second Circuit allows you to show special or exceptional circumstances that would justify the release of grand jury material. The 11th Circuit has a recent decision that says, no, only the factors that are described in Rule 6E, that's a rule of criminal procedure that governs grand jury materials and their use. The 11th Circuit says, no, you're limited to those factors. A court has no other powers to release grand jury materials. It was entirely an application of black letter case law here that justifies this decision. But yes, it allows the Trump administration to say
whether that'll be enough for Donald Trump supporters. You want to jump in one more time?
I'm just going to say real quick on that. Are you referring to the pitch decision, right? Because I know you haven't had a chance to read that yet. Yeah. So that is what is decided in the docket. So what Lisa said applies to this case.
Let me ask you now about Maxwell.
Yeah.
We talked about this. We started to talk about it yesterday. What could Todd Blanche be getting out of Maxwell that we don't already know about?
I'm not so sure. And so a little bit of a background on Maxwell. One of our colleagues pointed this out and reminded me of it today. There was a pretty significant detention hearing for her, an effort to keep her behind bars pending trial. And unlike what we see at a lot of detention hearings, there were actually witnesses that were brought there, and there was testimony that was listed even from a realtor in New Hampshire. And I think that testimony might be instructive for people that are looking towards Ghislaine Maxwell for answers. I'll let the audience decide. It was determined that she had changed her name and misrepresented her name in the course of purchasing a property in New Hampshire, where she was arrested by FBI agents from the Boston field office the day she was taken into custody. At that time, agents testified in court documents from prosecutors said that she was in the process of actually wrapping up her cell phones in tinfoil in what may have been a misguided effort for agents to be able to locate her cell phones. It was discovered that she was married, and there were numerous instances in the course of the application for her to remain behind bars by federal prosecutors where she, according to them, misled them repeatedly on the location and the amount of her assets. So what they described before the court, and remember this actually, because of some things that happened within the trial, we never got to the perjury charges that were levied against her. Those were ultimately not brought in a separate trial because she was convicted on what she was convicted on. But there was a significant amount of perjury charges and conduct that was made in the initial charges against her. So this is somebody where, according to federal prosecutors in the past, has a demonstrated history of lying to federal prosecutors, lying to the government, and lying in the course of depositions under oath in proceedings. So that might be, let you and the audience decide,
that
an
is
instructive tale.
raising the question that is out there right now of whether she can be trusted, Lucia, to give accurate information. So if Todd Blanche goes there, by the way, Todd Blanche, remember, Donald Trump's personal attorney, and gets information from her where she talks about powerful people that Donald Trump does not like and starts accusing them in a conversation, is it crazy to question whether she would do that and whether that would give the administration something to hold up as a revelation in this furor surrounding Jeffrey Epstein?
Yeah, well, it is such a good question, and these are the really important questions to be asking right now because, as we've just said, prosecutors have said that Ghislaine has a history of lying to authorities. They were willing to bring federal perjury charges against her. As we said, that those ended up being dropped when the substantive charges when she was convicted on those. But they have said that she has lied to them in the past, and she has been asked under oath about other people who were involved in this sex trafficking scheme, and she did not give any information then. So, the question is, what has changed now? From her attorney's statement yesterday, it seems that she is willing to speak to the government. So the question is, why is she willing to do that now? And in all the years since she was arrested, she has not been willing to do that, even though she's been given chances to do that. So, then we just have to think what kind of, and in any situation where someone is someone might be able to get a plea deal or a lighter sentence, for example, we always in the law have to think about how much credibility we give to evidence that we get from people in these situations. So, I think we have to think very carefully about what we hear.
Yeah, Lucia, just remind us again, what role did Ghislaine Maxwell play in the Jeffrey Epstein scheme? What was she convicted of? What did she do?
So this is crucial. What she was convicted of in 2021 was a number of substantive counts of assisting in the sex trafficking of underage girls. So what we heard from the prosecutors day after day after day in the trial, and this was really key, is that according to the prosecution's case, which of course was ultimately accepted by the jury, Ghislaine was a quote-unquote crucial part of this scheme. So her role in the scheme was to identify victims, groom them, earn their trust, and deliver them to Jeffrey Epstein for the purposes of sexual abuse. The jury also heard evidence that she was sometimes in the room when it happened and participating in it herself. So the role that she played that we heard about at trial was really, really central to this scheme. And one of the main points that the prosecutors put across to the jury, and again that the jury accepted, was that this criminal enterprise would not have been able to work if it weren't for her role in it.
Ryder has been growing at an astronomical pace, not only the employees, but also the number of customers. We throw people right into projects. And so a huge advantage of using Slack is actually being able to see all the context and history in one place instead of having to forward a bunch of emails. This gives them the immediate ability to start contributing right away. Typically, the old way to onboard the employee would take 40 hours, and now they can be onboarded in a matter of minutes. It's incredible. We need Slack. It's an important tool in order for us to grow.
And shifting gears now to the Justice Department. They are now planning to interview Ghislaine Maxwell following outrage from some MAGA supporters over the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, President Trump's former personal attorney, says he anticipates meeting with Maxwell in the coming days. The president speaking on the matter earlier while meeting with the president of the Philippines, saying he had not heard about the plans, but that it sounded like, quote, an appropriate thing to do.
Do you have any concern that your Deputy Attorney General, as your former attorney, would be conducting the interview, given?
No, I have no concern. He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt.
Despite the president's witch hunt claims, some Republicans on Capitol Hill have voted to subpoena Maxwell. To discuss, let's bring in ABC's Perry Russom. He is at our D.C. bureau, and ABC's Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill. Thank you both for joining me. Perry, I want to start with you. What else is the administration saying about this planned meeting with Maxwell, and what is Maxwell's attorney saying, if we know?
Yeah, the DOJ says this meeting could be happening in the next few days, in the coming days. So we're talking about a pretty short window of us finding out about this to this meeting possibly happening. As you mentioned, the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who was Trump's former personal attorney representing him in a number of cases leading up to the 2024 election. He is the one that should be meeting with Maxwell. He says if Ghislaine has any information that is relevant to the DOJ or FBI, they want to hear from her, and it appears that Maxwell's attorney is open to this idea, saying today that they are in discussions with the government. He says, quote, Ghislaine will always testify truthfully, and this is a woman that a lot of people want to hear from. We heard from Epstein's former attorney over the weekend on Fox News, calling Ghislaine the Rosetta Stone of information, saying basically she knows everything, and it appears some members of Congress also want to hear from her.
And of course, the judge overseeing the grand jury records saying that he will rule expeditiously but needs more information. Jay, I want to turn to you. Republicans on the House Oversight Committee voting to subpoena Maxwell as well. What's the latest there?
Yeah, this was a subcommittee of the House Oversight Committee. Republicans on that panel voting to subpoena Maxwell, and then a spokesperson for James Comer, who's the chair of the overall committee, who would be in charge of the subpoena, saying that they will issue that subpoena for her to testify up here on Capitol Hill as, quote unquote, expeditiously as possible. But we just don't know the timeline here. It comes as there is another Epstein saga up here on Capitol Hill. The House floor is paralyzed largely because of Jeffrey Epstein. The powerful House Rules Committee, which is the final stop for bills before they go to the House floor, is in this stalemate. Democrats on the panel have said that any legislation that they would approve out of that committee, they also want to attach provisions to force the release of the Epstein files at the Department of Justice, whatever DOJ has. And it would force, if they were to call that vote in committee, Republicans on that panel to have to take a hard vote, whether deciding to side with President Trump, who has said that he wants the party to move on, or side with the base, the MAGA base, who have said they want to see more out of this administration on the Epstein case. So what Mike Johnson chose to do was cancel House votes from Thursday onwards and say that after Wednesday, they're not going to take up any legislative business to try to sidestep this Epstein matter. And it just goes to show that there are hardliners in the party at loggerheads right now with the administration. They want to see more action out of the Jeffrey Epstein case, and they're paralyzing the House floor as Republicans try to figure out how to navigate that saga.
And Jay, like you said, it'll be really interesting to see who sides with President Trump here, but this is just the latest example of some Republicans pressing this one issue despite the president's claims that this is all a witch hunt. I mean, you spent a lot of time there on Capitol Hill. Is this all surprising?
Exactly right. I mean, there's one Republican, for example, Thomas Massie, who's long been a thorn in the administration's side, who has made it clear he's going to join with Democrats like Ro Khanna of California and a handful of hardline Republicans, he says, who he has the support of, and what we assume to be a big bulk of Democrats, and try to force a vote on the House floor to compel the release of the Epstein files. Now, it looks like that vote, just because of the timing of the House, won't come until the fall, but Epstein isn't swayed by the president's, or rather Massie isn't swayed by the president saying, move on from this Epstein matter. Here's a little bit more of what he told me when I talked to him earlier.
I think the president's at risk of losing his base over this issue?
Well, you don't lose your base over one single thing, but he's eroding his base. More importantly, if we don't take the right side of this issue, it's going to cost us votes in the midterms.
So again, saying that the president is losing in drips and drabs the support of some in the MAGA base here. And from the lawmakers we've talked to, every day that there isn't some kind of action, they will say privately they feel that they will only feel more and more pressure out of that MAGA base.
Thank you so much for that, Jay. And Perry, while pressed about the Epstein case today, the president shifted to slamming Democrats and former President Obama on something unrelated, right? And now the former president's team is responding?
Yeah, Stephanie was mid-answer talking about Ghislaine Maxwell when President Trump made these unfounded allegations about President Obama in the 2016 election. And we are now hearing from a spokesperson for the former president who calls the claims outrageous. He says these bizarre allegations are ridiculous.
It's all been a big hoax.
But now President Trump posting overnight,
Perry
quote, based
Jay,
on the
thank you
ridiculous
so
amount
much
of publicity
for
given to
joining us on
Jeffrey
Live
Epstein,
Reports.
I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony subject to court approval. Bondi responding, saying we are ready to move.
It's gonna be mega. Introducing Universal Mega Movie Summer. Make the most of your summer with this amazing offer.
Once a British socialite who lived a life of luxury, today Ghislaine Maxwell is confined to a U.S. prison after being convicted of helping financier Jeffrey Epstein sexually abuse underage girls. Epstein killed himself while awaiting trial in 2019, but his case has generated conspiracy theories because of his and Maxwell's links to famous people, including royals, presidents, and billionaires. Ghislaine Maxwell is the daughter of late billionaire Robert Maxwell, whose publishing empire included the Daily Mirror, one of Britain's biggest tabloid newspapers. During college, she became close friends with Britain's Prince Andrew. But the Maxwell family was shattered by scandal. After Robert Maxwell fell from his yacht and died in 1991, investigators accused him of embezzling huge sums of money from his company's pension funds. Soon after her father's death, Ghislaine Maxwell was photographed at a memorial sitting next to Epstein, an American money manager. Maxwell dated Epstein, but later also became his employee. Part of Maxwell's household duties included hiring a steady stream of young people to give massages to Epstein. But prosecutors said many of those masseuses were underage girls who were paid for sexual acts. Epstein pleaded guilty in 2008 to a single charge of procuring a person under 18 for prostitution and served 13 months in jail. Maxwell wasn't charged until 2021. At her trial, 4 women testified that Maxwell groomed them as teenagers to participate in sexual acts with Epstein and sometimes participated in the abuse. A jury convicted Maxwell of sex trafficking, conspiracy, and transportation of a minor for illegal sexual activity. She is serving a 20-year sentence.
And Garrett, we also have some news coming down in just the last few minutes. The Justice Department firing Maureen Comey, a prosecutor who worked on Epstein's case as well. She's also the daughter of ex-FBI Director James Comey. What can you tell us about that? What are your sources saying? Is there any sort of connection to that firing with this?
It's not clear yet if there is any connection, Ellison. And the other famous case that she worked on is, of course, the Sean Diddy Combs case, which just concluded with the rap mogul being cleared on some of the more serious charges against him, although convicted on some lesser charges. Whether this firing has anything to do with the government's failure to secure a bigger conviction in that case or has anything to do with the Epstein case is unclear at this hour. But you can bet that for conspiracy theorists looking at the Epstein cases, the removal of someone with the last name Comey, who worked on those prosecutions, will only fire up the talks that there is something more nefarious going on here.
With Redfin, you'll know the moment your next place hits the market, whether you're looking to buy your dream home or rent a sweet pad. Give us your gotta-have-it wish list of features, and you'll receive real-time notifications tailored just for you. Ready to see it up close and personal? Scheduling a tour is just a tap away. Download the Redfin app today.
This morning, as the Jeffrey Epstein saga rages on, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who until recently was President Trump's personal lawyer, is preparing to meet with Epstein's former companion, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is serving a 20-year prison sentence for conspiring with Epstein to traffic underage girls. President Trump says talking with Maxwell wasn't his idea, but he's fine with it.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
This comes as Maxwell has been appealing her case, trying to get out of prison. Trump used to socialize with Epstein and Maxwell and was asked about her when she was arrested in 2020.
Do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly.
In an interview with Axios shortly after that, he wished her well yet again.
Mr. President, Ghislaine Maxwell has been arrested on allegations of child sex trafficking. Why would you wish such a person well?
First of all, I don't know that, but I do know that
she has. She's been arrested for that.
Her friend or boyfriend,
Epstein,
was either killed or committed suicide in jail. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well.
Good luck.
Trump and some of his top allies spent years stoking shadowy conspiracy theories about Epstein. But now his administration has backed off a promise to release the full FBI files on Epstein.
The president's staff, administration, his own children, his vice president have promised that these files would come out, and now we're being told it's a hoax. It doesn't wash.
The House Oversight Committee Tuesday voted to subpoena Maxwell to testify. But Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, a close ally of the president, announced Congress is going into early recess this summer, avoiding any more votes on the Epstein case. The Trump administration is falsely claiming that Obama deliberately manufactured and politicized intelligence reports about Russian interference in the 2016 election. In a rare rebuke, Obama fired back, his spokesman pointing to the, quote, widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes. Obama noted that those findings were affirmed by Republicans in Congress at the time, including Trump's now Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. The Obama spokesman adding, quote, these bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. The Justice Department won't say when Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche will meet with Maxwell or where. She's currently serving her sentence in a federal prison in Florida. Maxwell's attorney tells ABC News they are in discussions with the government, saying in a statement, quote, Ghislaine will always testify truthfully. Michael?
All right, John, thank you so much for that. And everybody will be paying attention for sure.
And joining us now, NBC News national law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, NBC News White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard, NBC News chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles, and Puck's chief Washington correspondent, familiar face around here, Leanne Caldwell. Tom, one thing I left out of that just now was the news about Todd Blanche.
Lowe's knows you want your first cookout to leave a good first impression.
Right, so this is something that's
And
going
with
to be set
convenient
up,
same-day
according to a
delivery,
statement not only from the
we'll help you
Attorney
make sure
General, but
everything
also from
turns out
Maxwell's own attorneys who acknowledged that this contract
Lowe's
is
knows how to
occurred
help
that,
you summer.
It appears that initially they're going to have
In just the last 10 minutes, President Trump filing a lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal and its parent companies, and the former head of Fox News. The actual court document has not yet been made available to us, but all of this is over that Wall Street Journal report that he denies about a letter bearing his name and drawing of a naked woman gifted to Epstein for the late convicted sex offender's 50th birthday. According to documents reviewed by the Journal, the letter reads in part, "Happy birthday, and may every day be wonderful, a wonderful secret." The president denies writing the letter or making the drawing. That letter was among the
I think at the time, as we reported at the time, Katie, there was not really a compelling case for cooperation because investigators believed that they had maxed out all other avenues as far as additional prosecutions, and that there was nothing really there for her to offer prosecutors in terms of cooperation. But I got to say something. We've seen tweets and statements and posts about going to visit Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, in front of my name, it doesn't say detective. It doesn't say special agent, but I've been doing this job long enough, focused on law enforcement, to know that when you have victims, one of the things that you might do if you're going to go back and look at a case is to go back and speak to the victims. We have not heard about that. We've seen no statement about that from the Justice Department. And our colleague, Laura Strickler, just in the past hour, reached one of the attorneys for about 20 of the victims in the Epstein case, says they've never been contacted by anybody in federal law enforcement over the course of the last several months pertaining to this review. So it's really difficult for me to understand what is it exactly that Maxwell is going to offer that a group of victims who have, according to civil testimony, according to the testimony in federal court that convicted Maxwell, have testified credibly about what they say happened in the course of the years with Epstein and Maxwell. Why not go back and speak to them if you're going to try to see if there's anything to advance in the case?
Maxwell had something to offer for a plea agreement. Say she had knowledge of interactions that other powerful people had, or wrongdoing that other powerful people committed. Wouldn't she offer that as part of a plea deal?
Exactly. I mean,
what is the conspiracy that she didn't because she was worried about her own safety? These are very, very powerful people.
I mean, at that point, if she had said, look, I did this sex trafficking, purely as a hypothetical, I was involved in this whole thing. But what you guys aren't focusing on is high-profile person A, high-profile person B, high-profile person C. Then that clearly would have been of interest for investigators, and that might have been worth a discussion. But that never happened. We've never heard about it in her filings. Her attorneys have never represented that. So where was this discussion before?
Yeah, it makes you wonder what they're going to come out with after this conversation, if anything.
But the thing is, though, Katie, on the victims, why not reach out to the victims? At the very least, tell them, here are the